Tristan with Nerdette's NewsStand, and I want to do a spoiler review of Wonder Woman 1984. I watched it now twice at this point. I absolutely love it, and I will be going through a lot of it, the characters, the entire thing. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, make sure you click out, make sure you don't listen, because we're going to go through it quite in some detail. Now, I am going to be doing a separate video kind of talking about the backlash that we've seen received from this, and I think a lot of it is pride and unwillingness to admit when you're wrong, and knowing how to play people for clicks. I think both sides of this field we're seeing that on. So I do want to do that, but I want to do it separately. So let's jump right into it, since it's going to be a little longer. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. As always, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought of Wonder Woman if you've seen it yet, or if you have no intention on seeing it, or if you plan on seeing it, let me know in the comments below. But this takes on something very different than the first Wonder Woman did. It takes on one of the 7 deadliest sins, right? Greed. And we see Wonder Woman more of a lover, not a fighter. Now that version is very well known in the comics, the Diana that can talk her way to someone's heart. We actually just seen it recently happen with Superboy Prime. But we're not seeing necessarily the warrior princess, but we can tell she's still there. And I think Wonder Woman is far from perfect, but it's beyond special of a movie. It was absolutely amazing, and I'm not sure, I would say it's just as good as the first one, maybe a little bit underneath it, but I definitely think if Wonder Woman 1 was a 95, this would be a 90. I absolutely love it. So, let's talk about that opening scene. The opening scene takes place in Themyscira. We get a lot of pan shots, a lot of really great shots showing different aspects of Themyscira, and we see a young Diana who does a fantastic job absolutely showing how Diana was determined from day one, how she was strong from day one. She is a god killer nonetheless, but we do get a important message within that entire scene, is that no true hero is born from lies, because little Diana cheated in order to win, and she was mad and absolutely stole the scene when it came to her facial expressions. That little girl was absolutely perfect. I love the scene. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Wonder Woman mythology that was included, and I did see some people talk about this in general. What I love the most, there was quite a few things, but I loved that they included the invisible plane. I absolutely loved it. It was great the way they did it. You know, Zeus was able to make things invisible. That's what he did to Themyscira. She had been practicing, but she made a cup invisible and she lost it. It was cute, but the only problem in that scene was that she went and took Steve to the Smithsonian, and obviously those planes wouldn't work, but it worked for, you can suspend disbelief, right? Also with the mythology, we actually get to see Diana fly. I did not expect that. The way it is done is perfect, though, because of Steve being a pilot, talking about flight and how it makes sense to him. And she's able to kind of, after he's gone, put that in how she feels about flight, and it actually works. I love it. Another thing is the Asteria. We'll talk a little bit more about this. They do use the golden armor from Kingdom Come. Unfortunately, I don't think they gave Alex Ross his due, but they use it in a different way. We have seen Asteria very, very often in the comics. Maybe less than a handful of times, right? So they like that they were able to put her in this in a very, very different way. It's almost a completely new character. And I'll talk about the post-credit scene, but they did a good job of using this as a defensive tool instead of an offensive one, right? Now, I know one thing that people have talked about in the comments I want to address with the mythology is the I hate guns part. Of course she does. She is an Amazonian princess. She never has used a gun. She doesn't like guns. She never has. So that didn't bother me one bit. It actually fits literally right in with her character. It's perfect. So they did a great job also of the 80s world building, whether it was how women looked when they worked out, or the way things were brighter, more fashionable, more silly fashion even, right? And the hair, everything. The world building was great, along with Hans Zimmerman's score. Absolutely amazing. Now, where my main critique comes in is with the stone, and I'll talk about this more when I talk about Maxwell Lord. But the stone needed better instructions or rules to the viewer to kind of understand what was going on, and I don't think they made that clear enough. Now, one amazing surprise that I love they put in there, and maybe it's just me, but Simon Stagg was in this. Now he's in Endless Winter right now. We've seen him in Arkham Knight. We've seen him in different comic books for years, right? And to have him show up in this honestly meant that somebody did their homework, for one, and Jeff Johns was involved in writing this, so I'm assuming it was him. But I absolutely, it took me by surprise, and it made me excited. Like somebody knows what they're doing when it comes to writing this. I really, really liked it. Now, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. My main critique would be the VFX. They were a little wonky in spots, right? When she jumps in the beginning, coming into the mall and going on the balcony, they kind of look a little off the CGI. Also, the plot. Now, it's basically be careful what you wish for on steroids, right? Maybe mixed with a little Rumpelstiltskin in there. You have to know the consequences or the price, because once that wish is granted, you're going to pay it. And that's really what it is. But it's fleshed out over 2.5 hours, and it's a lot bigger than that. It is ancient civilizations imploding, and quite possibly the whole entire world. So my favorite thing about this is it introduces nuance to the DCEU. Now, there was no nods to any other movie. Unfortunately, it's not really connected in a big way. But introducing nuance to this character shows us that there's good and bad in everybody. Even Maxwell Lord wasn't inherently evil. We all have our struggles. But at what cost will you pay to solve them? And I really, really like that, because nobody was inherently evil in this. And unfortunately, we see people can be good, people can be bad. You have to know there's a gray area. It did a really good job of introducing that. So, also, I like that they did more of an aggression versus defense tactic. And what I mean by that is, in the first Wonder Woman, we saw a very, very aggressive Diana. In this one, we learned early on, before the movie was released, she wasn't going to have her sword and shield. We see the defensive side of Wonder Woman. And I like that side of Wonder Woman. I prefer the aggressive, but it actually works so well in this movie. I kind of love that side now. I really, really do. I think it just depends on who's writing it. Now, I want to talk, before I get into individual characters real quick, about the negative depiction of men. It's there. But what everybody else is kind of not realizing is it's there for both sexes. We have a negative depiction of both men and women, and a positive depiction of both men and women. And what I mean about that is, for women, we have Wonder Woman. She's strong, she's courageous, she's beautiful, she's amazing. An amazing, positive depiction of a woman. And then you have Barbara, who isn't inherently evil, but focused on other things, and we'll get into that when we talk about her. And she ends up being a very, very negative depiction of a woman scorn, right? Same with men. We have two great, amazing male characters, and I'm talking specifically about Steve and then secondary Maxwell Lord. But we also have negative depiction of male characters too, and that would be the scene with Barbara, which we'll get into next. So it's both there. It's there for both. And I don't think there's necessarily any reason to not talk about one when it's there for both. It's obvious. But specifically, Barbara. Let's talk about her. She was, in the beginning, funny, quirky. She had great chemistry with Gal. She made me laugh and smile a lot. She's that awkward weird that I totally understand. Now, on our way home from going out to dinner with Gal Gadot, with Wonder Woman, she is approached by a homeless drunk, and he basically won't take no for an answer. It's done really well. We get Wonder Woman to save her. And that introduces her wanting to really be like Diana. And that's what she wishes for. But what they play a very, very eye-opening part of is physical beauty. Because that's what Barbara wants. She's a pretty girl. But she wants physical beauty and grace. The ability to attract men is so important to women, and it really does a good job of showcasing that, and how a lot of times women, just like men, feel left out, feel like they let the world down because they're not the prettiest or they're not the best. And I can understand that. So I do think paying that special role to physical beauty really, really worked with the Cheetah character. Now, she loses her humanity, and that was her price for being like Wonder Woman, being like Diana. She loses that humanity, and we really, really see it showcased the second time around with the interaction with the drunk. Same man again approaches her again, and we see her get her, I don't know if you would call it vindication, get her revenge, get any of those words you want to insert on the homeless man. She was okay at first, and then she took it a step too far. Yes, he was a terrible person, and those things happen in real life. They do. But the way she treated him, and when we see the homeless man walk in, really showed us her humanity was gone. Really showed us she was lost, right? At that point, she was lost. Now, there was 2 scenes with Barbara that I really, really enjoyed, and that was her against Wonder Woman in the White House. She really shows how far she will go for that strength, for that beauty, for that physical beauty that women really, really want. And she's giving up everything she ever was for it. And she beats the living hell out of Diana by the end of that scene. We see Diana down on her luck, trying to say, what cost are you doing this? Used to be warm. It doesn't matter. She wants that beauty. And then also her scene at the very end when she is full Cheetah with Diana. Now this scene was great. It was wonderful. When she took the Golden Eagle armor and wrapped Asteria's armor and wrapped it around her, and we see the shots from inside the armor looking out at Cheetah, were absolutely fantastic. I thought when she wouldn't renege on her wish, right? She died when she electrocuted her, and I almost think that would have been, I don't know, it would have been very powerful, but she didn't. She basically knocked her out, right? So, and she doesn't actually ever go back on her wish, but she does get it taken away because Maxwell does. It shows she's absolutely not done. If Patty Jenkins decides to go on with the Cheetah character, she can absolutely still use this woman because she's tasted the beauty, the speed, the strength of Wonder Woman, and she's drunk on it, and she wants more. So I really don't think there was any redemption to Barbara at the end. None whatsoever. But I think that's good. It leaves it open-ended. So let's talk about Maxwell Lord for a little bit. I know a lot of people were saying he was a Trump allegory. Absolutely not. There was none of that in there. Again, I'll address that in a different video. But I did love the character. He did a great job. It was very different than the comics, but it was still great. Now, he ended up becoming the Wishing Stone. That was his wish. Now, they didn't make these rules clear. He decided the cost of everybody else's wish. And I think after I caught on to that, it was perfect. But I think they could have made that a little bit more clear. It also shows us that he's not a truly evil nemesis, terrible man. He was just a con man that got in over his head. And he wanted to make his son proud. He was also very much a narcissist. He needed constant validation, whether it was validation from the public, validation from his coworkers, validation from people around him. He also needed validation for his son. And that is a very weird situation where he should not need that validation. That's his son. His son loves him. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do think that Pedro Pascal owned the character. I do think he did a great job. At first I was a little confused about his accent, but I really did end up liking it and liking that addition to the character. So as far as Diana, now Gal Gadot is a great actress. She's a beautiful woman. I do feel like she was a little numb at first, and I think that may have been done on purpose. After her loss with Steve, and kind of over the years doing everything for everyone else, she was numb. And she should and does deserve to be happy with Steve. But at what cost, right? So I loved seeing them two back together in action. They did a great job together. She was unwilling at first when she realized what can be done. She was unwilling to give him away. She always did for everyone else. Didn't she deserve him? She really honestly did. But she would lose her power. She wouldn't be able to help the world. And at that point, it really needed help. Now, she's a phenomenal Wonder Woman. Nobody will ever replace her in my eyes. She does a great job. So as far as Steve goes, they are such a great team. He was a great man, right? Still is a great man. But he was her equal. He doesn't take away from her. He doesn't take away from her power. We see a strong female and a great equal man. They didn't have to emasculate this man in order to make him just as good as Wonder Woman. They were the perfect balance of male and female, and that's a lot of what Wonder Woman represents. She's the bridge, right, between men. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. So I did love how it was kind of a reverse fish out of water situation, right? Whereas in the first movie, we saw Diana not knowing anything about man's world. When he came back 70 years later or so, he looked at everything the way she did, in wonder and awe. He loved it. That plane scene with the invisible jet, when he's able to fly this brand new thing for the first time, the way he looked at it was absolutely wonderful. I do think he's a great actor, and I think he's a funny character. But more importantly than anything else, I think they make a great team. And they're such good equal counterparts. So, oh boy, we're going to talk about a couple scenes in particular. Yeah, I cried too much during this movie. I would say at least 3 times, if not more. And this one really got me, the saying goodbye scene. Diana's beaten up. It's after she's faced Cheetah at the White House. The world's a mess. Everything is going wrong because of these wishes, because of the cost of these wishes, because of the greed within these people's hearts. And Steve says, I had a great life because you were in it. And Gal's face, it's just the pain and sorrow you see on her face is absolutely amazing acting. And she says, I'll never love again. And he says, I pray that isn't true. And I think that's actually an important line, because at the end of the movie, we see her with the guy that Steve Trevor came back in. So I think there is an option out there, or they're going to bring him back from Flashpoint. Either way, I think that there is a new learning in Wonder Woman at the end of this, that she has to live, not live in the past. She has to live for now, for the future. And I think that's what we learn from this saying goodbye scene. And at the end, but she says, I can't say goodbye. I can't say goodbye. And he's like, you don't have to. I'm already gone. And then when she turns around and leaves and starts running, and he says, he turns out and he says, I'll always love you, Diana, no matter where I am. Trying not to get emotional here, mind I. Oh my God. It was absolutely perfect. She did deserve him. She did deserve to have him back. but nothing is born from lies. And that right in the beginning is a extremely important lesson that we learn. So now I want to talk about the Wonder Woman versus Maxwell Lord at the very end. Another extremely, albeit not perfect, but it is definitely a moving scene, is when Wonder Woman gets the lasso around his foot. And he's basically taunting her. Didn't you want everything? You could have had your pilot and your powers. All you have to do is, team up with me. She says, I never wanted anything more. But he's gone. I have to accept that. The truth is enough. Again, nothing is born from lies, right? So she turns it around and she makes every single individual person the hero. Instead of saving them from themselves, they actually save themselves. And I think that's an important distinction to make when it comes to a hero type character. She is able to simply put the power within you. And she does. And people, being good people, make the correct choice by, renouncing their wish. And her speech when she does, "You're not the only one that's been ever felt alone or been down on their luck," I think is really what got to me. We get to see Maxwell's past, and as typical and as cliche as it is, seeing that past is important to his character. It's how his father treated him. And then we see Alistair. And we see, just like the first one, love wins again, right? We see Alistair. We see his love for his son. And that is still what is the most important thing. The most important thing, he'll give up every single thing he has in the world for that little boy. And he does. And he chases after Alistair. And he comes clean with everything. I'm not this great man. I'm a loser. I'm this. I'm that. And he says, I'm not here because you wish I was here. I'm here because I love you. I want to make you proud. I want to do this for you. It's that, back to that narcissism thing. I need that validation, right? And Alistair just looks at him and says, I love you. You don't have to make me proud. You're my father. And I think that fatherly relationship is absolutely beautiful to show in something when nowadays we don't see the bond a lot between father and son or father and daughter, good fathers in general. And putting that in there was really ballsy of them. And it paid off because it was a really, really emotional scene. And I absolutely loved every single message that came from this and every single thing that was said in passing. It was so good. And then we get an post-credit scene, right? And we find out that Asteria was the original Wonder Woman. We get to see Linda Carter. Absolutely beautiful ending. Absolutely honored the legacy of Linda Carter and the legacy of Wonder Woman as a amazing heroine who doesn't have to use her sword and shield all the time. It's there, but she didn't have to use it. And I absolutely loved it. Now, I will talk a little bit about Backlash in a different one, but this movie, it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. But the message it sends, the feels, the emotions, everything makes it so much better. Wonder Woman's always meant a lot to me. And this was beautiful. So let me know, of course, what you guys thought about this movie. If you've seen it, let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey guys, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon and subscribe stars. You guys literally make this channel possible. Huge thank you to Cage the Mick, Robert Mick Twiz, Black Knight Fool, Brucey, Chris Z, David L, David Rafford, Jeffrey Allen Carnes, Mighty Balls, Mike Buckner, Maizen Barbosa, Ruskar, Ryan Decker, Robert Hoffman, and Doc Holliday. You guys are absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for all your support. Don't forget, on the way out, to like as always if you enjoy the content and hit subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.